They're not really seriously considering phase 3, at least at this moment. Well, joining me live now to discuss this further is the Assistant Minister to the Treasurer, Michael Sukkar. Thanks for your time today.
Good to be with you.
You split up the company tax, you won't split up income tax. What's the difference?
Well, Tom, this is a plan. I mean, this is not just a short-term measure, as we've seen from Labor governments in the past and Labor budgets. This is a long-term plan for a stronger economy, and it all hangs together. We've got immediate tax relief for low and medium income earners. Then we're dealing with bracket creep at step 2 to ensure that more middle income Australians don't move into higher tax brackets. And then step 3 of the personal income tax plan is to make sure that we make our system simpler, fairer, by abolishing the 37% marginal tax rate, which means that 94% of Australians won't pay more than 32.5% as their highest marginal tax rate. We think that is important. It all hangs together. It's one package. It's a plan for a stronger economy. It's a plan to encourage aspiration, to encourage people to try their best and work hard, as Australians do. And you can't carve it up bit by bit. And you either agree, sorry Tom, you either agree with lower taxes for Australians or not. Now, the Labor Party are very happy to commit us to decades of expenditure. All you have to do is look at recent Labor budgets. They're happy to commit to expenditure for many decades into the future, but they're not happy to accept 7 years of personal income tax relief for Australians. It's very curious.
Look, it's a fair enough argument on that principle, but you are still the government. Part of these tax cuts are meant to come in effect on July 1. You're the government. If they don't, voters are going to say to you, why not?
Well, I think people will rightly say to the Labor Party, why are you denying us a tax cut? That's the reality. Our Parliament today can agree to personal income tax relief from 1 July and personal income tax relief for middle and low income Australians for the next 7 years. This should not be beyond our Parliament, and I think taxpayers would rightly look at the Labor Party and say, why on earth do the government even need to negotiate with the crossbench? Why are you not being an opposition?
Well, everything gets negotiated with the crossbench, though. I mean,
but if Labor votes for it, there is no negotiation with the crossbench.
No, but obviously they're going to have an alternative
tax plan. It sails through the Parliament.
But they're happy with the first one. So surely you'd concede people are going to sit there on July 1. If the tax cut's not in effect by then, yes, only a small part of it is that sort of
well, let's remember, Tom, this is an offset that people will be entitled to at the end of the income year.
Not the changing of the 87 to 90 bracket, though.
Sure.
So that's a tax cut, a small one, but I'm sure you don't want to talk down the size of it.
It's a significant tax cut, and it builds on the increase of that marginal rate from 80 to 87,000
So July 1 or whatever the first payday is after for that people, July 10 or whatever it might be.
I'm not diminishing our desire to get it done ASAP. And Tom, the reality here is Labor should just own this. I mean, Labor should own it. If they don't believe in personal income tax relief for middle income Australians, if they want to argue that someone on $90,000 or $95,000 is one of these terrible millionaires and billionaires that Bill Shorten and Chris Bowen keep talking about, let them go out and make those arguments. We believe in lower taxes for those people. We believe in lower taxes for those on lower incomes too.
Can I just ask again, though, what's the difference between the company tax cut and splitting that and not splitting the income tax cut?
Because this plan all hangs together, Tom, in a way that we are absolutely committed to.
Well, why does the company tax cut plan not hang together?
Well, you've got to remember, we've legislated to date company tax cuts for businesses up to $50 million. We're on target. If you look at the enterprise tax plan, we're not behind schedule there. So we're, again, confident that that plan, which also hangs together, will be legislated in time.
You're only not behind schedule because you passed the first part. You'll be behind schedule on this on July 1 if you don't pass it.
Tom,
isn't that even more reason to pass it?
It's not our intention, a week after the budget, to carve up an integrated plan for lower taxes for Australians. And it's just plainly not our intention to do so. We think this Parliament, previous Parliaments, have committed Australians to decades of future spending. The least we can do is commit as a Parliament, led by Treasurer Morrison, to 7 years of personal income tax relief for Australians who, I can tell you, after being on the road last week, are absolutely thirsty for that personal income tax relief.
I'm sure everyone wants their thirst slaked in that sense. What about if it's passed sometime after July 1? Would people get the refund of the full amount for that financial year?
Yes. I mean, the reality is for the offset, whether you do it on a PAYE basis or whether it's accounted for at the end of the income year. I mean, you know, we all put in our tax return at the end of the year, and you have a balance at the end, and you either get a refund or not.
So you'll get
a bigger refund. We can guarantee Australians you'll get a much bigger refund if our personal income tax plan is supported.
So your deadline basically would be June 30 the next year almost?
Well, no, Tom, our deadline is let's get this done ASAP. Let's get this done straight away. I mean, well, let's not kick this off into the long grass. The Labor Party should, if they don't want to give personal income tax relief to Australians, just own it. Just be honest.
Well, they do. They've got a different plan. Well, I mean, that's the way this place works.
They don't answer the questions when you put them. And last night, in the end, on the third reading of the bill, they all voted with us for some reason on the whole personal income tax plan, which was very curious.
Well, they moved it on to the Senate. Let's move on to the company tax cut. There's a bit of a push to drop this. At what point does this become a zombie measure?
Tom, there's no push to
talking about it.
Name them.
Well,
Tom, I'll be quite honest with you. I'm sick of anonymous so-called MPs on any issue, let alone on company tax cuts. No one I've spoken to thinks we should drop them.
Barnaby Joyce certainly intimated it. If you want to name one that's talking on camera, though, what's your message to him and others?
Well, look, it's very clear. Last year we had records job growth, 415,000. We've met the million jobs target, which I'd note Chris Bowen said we would never meet. This doesn't happen by accident. This is not an accident. One of the reasons we had records jobs growth of 415,000, one of the reasons we've met the million jobs target is because we got in our small and medium enterprise tax cuts last year for businesses with turnover up to $50 million. Every decision we take, whether it's our export trade deals, whether it's any of the other reforms, are all about strengthening our economy, making it easier to employ people, making it easier to make those investment decisions that create wealth for Australians. And again, you know, on company tax, this is not some benevolent giveaway to companies. This is us remaining competitive to make sure that we encourage investment, we encourage job creation, because even at the end of our enterprise tax plan, Tom, with a tax rate of 25%, we're not going to be some sort of tax haven. We're going to be in the top third of corporate taxes in the OECD. It will bring us back to the pack a bit.
We'll see how your argument goes with Paul.